3 months later, Marcus stood in what had once been Mining Station Eco 7's primary storage bay. Watching impossible things happen, the space had been completely transformed. Gone were the ore processors and mineral sorting equipment. In their place, crystalline structures grew from floor to ceiling, pulsing with the same warm light that emanated from the nurture gift. The walls themselves seemed alive, shifting between solid matter and something that looked like crystallized music. And everywhere, absolutely everywhere, there were wonders being born. A flowering tree made of pure light stretched toward the ceiling, its branches bearing fruit that existed as both solid matter and conscious thought. A fountain of liquid silver flowed upward in defiance of gravity, its droplets transforming into tiny birds that sang in harmonies Marcus could feel in his bones. Geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly danced through the air, weaving themselves into tools and art and technologies that had no names in any human language. "The integration is proceeding faster than we anticipated," said Dr. Sarah Kim, the xenobiologist who had arrived 2 weeks ago along with a team of Earth's best scientists. "Marcus, you need to see the latest scans." Marcus turned away from watching a piece of crystallized starlight reshape itself into what looked like a musical instrument crossed with a telescope. In the past 3 months, he had grown accustomed to impossible sights, but he had never grown tired of them. "What kind of scans?" Marcus asked, though he was pretty sure he knew the answer. Dr. Kim had been monitoring him constantly since the bonding with the nurture gift had begun showing physical effects. Neural activity, mainly. "Marcus, the changes in your brain structure are—" She paused, checking her tablet again. "There's no scientific precedent for what's happening to you. Your neural pathways are developing new connections faster than we can map them. It's like your mind is expanding to accommodate knowledge that shouldn't be able to fit in a human brain." Marcus nodded absently. He had been aware of the changes for weeks now. Knowledge that he had never learned somehow felt familiar. Languages he had never studied came to him as easily as breathing. Most strange of all, he had begun to understand the fundamental forces that governed reality in ways that made advanced physics seem like children's games. "How do you feel?" Dr. Kim asked, genuine concern in her voice. "Different," Marcus admitted, "but not wrong, if that makes sense. Like I'm becoming more myself, not less." It was true, though difficult to explain. The bonding with the nurture gift hadn't erased his humanity or overwritten his personality. Instead, it had expanded his capacity to understand and create in ways that felt natural, as if he had always possessed these abilities and was only now learning to use them. "Marcus," came Whisper of Star's voice from across the bay. She had remained at the station to guide the awakening process, though she spent most of her time now in communication with the growing maker consciousness within the nurture gift. "The first awakening approaches? Are you prepared?" Marcus looked back at the crystalline structures that filled the bay. Somewhere among them, the makers of wonder were stirring to true consciousness for the first time in 3,000 years. Soon, they would be ready to take physical form again, to exist as individuals rather than a collective memory preserved in the nurture gift. "As prepared as I can be, I suppose," Marcus replied, "though I still don't understand why they want me to speak for them." "Because you were the one who accepted their trust," Whisper of Stars explained, gliding over to where Marcus and Dr. Kim stood. "In maker culture, the first bond creates a permanent relationship. You are not just their guardian, you are their voice to the galaxy, their representative among the living species. That's a lot of responsibility for a maintenance worker." "Former maintenance worker?" Dr. Kim corrected with a smile. "I think your job description has changed somewhat." Before Marcus could respond, every crystalline structure in the bay began resonating with a low, harmonious tone. The light patterns within them shifted from gentle pulses to complex, flowing designs that seemed to convey meaning without words. Marcus felt the familiar warmth of the maker consciousness touch his mind. "It is time," came the voice that was not quite a voice, speaking directly into his thoughts. "We are ready to greet the galaxy once more. Will you help us say hello?" Marcus took a deep breath and reached out with his expanded consciousness to touch the vast network of awakening minds. In response, the crystalline structures throughout the bay began to glow more brightly, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with anticipation. "Dr. Kim," Marcus said quietly, "you might want to record this." The first awakening began as a simple melodia single, pure note that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. But as it continued, the note split and harmonized with itself, becoming a chord, then a symphony, then something that transcended music entirely, and became pure creation. The crystalline trees throughout the bay began to flower, their light fruit opening to release seeds that drifted through the air like conscious stars. Where the seeds touched solid matter, they transformed it, not destroying, but enhancing, making it more than it had been. The metal walls of the storage bay became something between crystal and living wood, their surfaces covered with growing patterns that pulsed with life and intelligence. And then the first maker took physical form. She materialized slowly, condensing out of light and possibility into a shape that was almost humanoid but definitely other. Tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to be made of crystallized moonlight and eyes that held the depth of eternity. When she moved, reality itself seemed to bend slightly to accommodate her presence. "Greetings," she said, and her voice was like wind chimes made of starlight. "I am first of the awakened, and I speak for the makers of wonder who sleep no more." Marcus found himself stepping forward, though he didn't remember making the conscious decision to move. The knowledge gifted to him by the nurture gift told him what to say, how to respond in a manner appropriate to this moment that would be remembered for millennia. "Welcome back to the living galaxy," Marcus said formally. "I am Marcus Chen, guardian of your nurture gift and voice of humanity. We offer you friendship, protection, and a place among the stars." First of the awakened smiled, and the expression transformed her alien features into something achingly beautiful. "Marcus Chen of humanity," she replied. "Your species has given us the greatest gift possible, the chance to exist again. In return, we offer you knowledge, partnership, and proof that the galaxy has been wrong about your people." "What do you mean?" "The makers of wonder were the first species to receive a nurture gift from those who came before us," she explained. "We know the weight of this responsibility, the honor of being chosen as guardians. In 3,000 years of searching, the Council has never found another species willing to accept this burden without expectation of personal gain." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Are you saying humans are the first?" "The very first," confirmed First of the Awakened. "Every other species, when offered a nurture gift, demanded to know what they would receive in return, what technologies they could gain, what power it would grant them, what advantage it would provide over their rivals. None were willing to accept the responsibility purely for the sake of protecting sleeping lives." Dr. Kim had gone very pale. "Marcus, do you understand what this means?" Marcus was beginning to, and the realization was leaving him speechless all over again. "It means," came Whisper of Star's voice, filled with wonder, "that humanity is not just worthy of caring for the nurture gifts. You may be the most worthy species the galaxy has ever produced." Over the following hours, as more makers awakened and took form throughout the transformed storage bay, the full implications became clear. The Council had spent 3 millennia searching for a species that could be trusted with the preservation and protection of extinct civilizations. They had tested hundreds of candidates using elaborate scenarios and complex evaluations, but all along, the real test had been much simpler. When faced with the choice between personal gain and protecting others, what would a species choose? Humans, it turned out, were the first to consistently choose protection. The Council will not want to accept this. Whisper of Stars admitted as they watched makers working alongside human scientists to create technologies that existed at the intersection of art and engineering. Too many species have invested too much in the belief that humans are primitive and dangerous. "But they'll have to," Marcus replied. "Because the makers are awake now, and they're not going back to sleep. The Council can't ignore an entire preserved species vouching for humanity." "More than that," added First of the Awakened, who had been listening to their conversation while simultaneously teaching Dr. Kim How to grow computers out of crystallized mathematics? The makers of wonder have certain abilities that the galaxy has forgotten. We can create things that should not be possible. We can shape matter with will alone. We can build bridges between species that have never existed before. She gestured toward a section of the bay where human engineers were working with awakened makers to construct something that looked like a cross between a spacecraft and a living creature. Together, humans and makers can accomplish things that neither could achieve alone. Your species pro? Marcus woke to the gentle chime of his personal communicator, but it wasn't his usual shift alarm. The timestamp showed he'd been asleep for 12 hours longer than he'd slept in months. Every muscle in his body ached from the previous day's rescue, but he felt strangely alert. "Mr. Chun," came the voice of the station's AI. "Your guest is requesting your presence in Medical Bay 2. Her recovery has been remarkably rapid." Marcus pulled on his standard-issue jumpsuit and made his way through the station's corridors. The mining facility never really slept. The automated systems hummed constantly, and the distant rumble of ore processors provided a steady background rhythm. But today, everything felt different. Charged with possibility, the medical bay doors slid open to reveal Whisper of Stars sitting upright on her treatment bed, looking nothing like the dying alien he'd rescued yesterday. Her silver-blue skin had regained its luminescence, and the scales across her arms and face shimmered with renewed vitality. The wound in her side had healed completely, leaving only the faintest trace of a scar. "Marcus," she said, and her voice carried none of yesterday's weakness. "Grandmother feels like new hatchling again. Your medical systems, they are remarkable." "The autodocs are pretty good," Marcus agreed, settling into the chair beside her bed. "But alien physiology usually takes longer to adapt to our treatment protocols." "You heal fast." Whisper of Stars tilted her head, a gesture that reminded Marcus of a curious bird. "My people, we are long-lived. But healing comes from more than medicine, yes? From gratitude, from purpose, from She searched for the word hope. "I'm glad you're feeling better," Marcus said. "Have you been able to contact your people? Let them know you're safe?" Something flickered across Whisper of Stars' expression too quick for Marcus to interpret. "Soon, yes. But first, Grandmother must fulfill obligation. Must give you what you have earned." She reached toward a small alcove beside her bed where the medical staff had placed her personal effects. Marcus noticed there weren't many aliens traveling in living ships rarely carried physical possessions. But she withdrew something that made his breath catch. It was an egg, not like any egg Marcus had ever seen. It was roughly the size of a human head, but perfectly spherical, with a surface that seemed to shift between translucent crystal and polished metal. Patterns of light moved slowly through its shell, not the harsh glow of electronics, but something organic and warm. As Whisper of Stars held it, the patterns pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "This," she said reverently, "is why Grandmother was traveling. Why ship was damaged. Why everything depends on reaching destination safely." Marcus stared at the egg, unable to look away from the mesmerizing patterns of light within. "It's beautiful, but I can't accept something like that. It's obviously important to your people." "Important, yes," Whisper of Stars agreed. "But now it belongs to you. Because you have done something that changes everything." "I don't understand." Whisper of Stars set the egg carefully on the bed between them, and Marcus noticed that the patterns of light seemed to respond to his presence, growing brighter and more complex. "Marcus, what do you know of the Galactic Council?" Marcus shrugged. "Not much. They're the big alliance that runs most of known space, right? Hundreds of species working together for trade and peace. Humans aren't members, too new, too small to matter." "Yes and no." Whisper of Stars' golden eyes grew thoughtful. "Council has existed for 3,000 Earth years. In all that time, one question has shaped every decision: which species can be trusted with the great responsibility?" "What great responsibility?" The protection of the nurture gifts. Marcus looked at the egg again, beginning to understand. That's what this is? A nurture gift? One of only 7 in existence, Whisper of Stars confirmed. Each contains the genetic essence, the cultural memory, and the spiritual foundation of an entire species that no longer exists. Not extinct, saved, preserved, waiting for the right guardians to awaken them and give them new life. The weight of what she was saying hit Marcus like a physical blow. You're talking about entire species? Civilizations? The harmony singers who could make music from starlight itself. The dream builders who created cities that existed only in shared imagination but were more real than any physical place. The ocean minds who thought in currents and tides and understood time differently than any other people. Whisper of Stars touched the egg gently, and the patterns within responded with a cascade of golden light. And this won the makers of wonder. They could take raw matter and transform it into anything they could envision. Not with technology, Marcus. With will, with understanding. With love, Marcus felt dizzy. Why are you telling me this? Why are you giving this to me? Because the Council has searched for 3,000 years for a species worthy of caring for the nurture gifts. We have tested hundreds of civilizations. Most fail immediately, too greedy, too violent, too self-interested. Some pass the basic tests but fail deeper evaluation. A few have come close, but always there is something that disqualifies them. And humans? Whisper of Stars' expression grew sad. Humans were never even considered. Your species is too young, too chaotic, too dangerous. The Council believes humans are incapable of thinking beyond their own immediate needs. Marcus felt a familiar stirring of anger. Humans had been dismissed and underestimated by alien civilizations since first contact. Too primitive, too aggressive, too unpredictable. It was why humanity remained on the edges of galactic society. Welcome as traders and workers, but never as equals. But Grandmother Whisper of Stars has lived for 800 of your years, she continued. I have watched species rise and fall. I have seen the best and worst of every people in the galaxy. And yesterday, Marcus-chun, you showed me something I had never seen before. What? You risked your life to save a complete stranger of a different species with no hope of reward or recognition. Not because you were ordered to. Not because your society demanded it. Not even because it was your job. You did it because you could not bear to let someone die when you had the power to help. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. That's not... lots of people would have done the same thing. No, Whisper of Stars said firmly. They would not. Grandmother has access to Council records going back millennia. In all that time, we have documented exactly 37 instances of true cross-species altruism. Acts of kindness with no expectation of return, performed at personal risk, for the benefit of unknown aliens. She paused, letting that sink in. 14 of those instances involved humans. Marcus stared at her. That's impossible. We've only been in space for a couple centuries. Yes, and in that short time, humans have demonstrated more genuine compassion for alien life than most species show in millennia of existence. But the Council refuses to see it. They focus on your wars, your territorial disputes, your resource conflicts. They see the humans who fight and conquer and take. They do not see the humans who heal and help and sacrifice. So what are you saying? Whisper of Stars picked up the egg and held it out to Marcus. Grandmother is saying that the Council is wrong. That humans are not only worthy of caring for the nurture gifts, you may be the only species that can do so properly. I can't take that, Marcus said, backing away. I'm just a maintenance worker on a mining station. I'm nobody special. Marcus-chun, Whisper of Stars said, and her voice carried a weight of authority that made him stop moving. You are a human who saved an alien grandmother without thought of reward. You are exactly the kind of person the nurture gifts were meant for. But what would I do with it? I don't know anything about alien genetics or cultural preservation or any of that. The egg will teach you. When you accept it, truly accept the responsibility it will bond with you. You will learn what the makers of wonder knew. You will understand their dreams and their hopes and their wisdom, and when the time is right, you will help them wake up into the galaxy again." Marcus looked at the egg, feeling overwhelmed. The patterns of light within seemed to pulse with anticipation, as if waiting for his decision. What happens if I say no? Then grandmother takes the egg to the council, as originally planned. It will be placed in another preservation vault to wait another few centuries for someone worthy to emerge. The makers of wonder will sleep longer, and humanity will remain forever outside the greater community of species, never knowing what you might have achieved. And if I say yes, then everything changes. For you, for your species, for the galaxy itself. Marcus was quiet for a long time, staring at the impossible choice before him. Finally, he looked up at Whisper of Stars. Why me? Really? Out of billions of humans, why am I the one getting this choice? Whisperer of Stars smiled, and Marcus saw something in her golden eyes that he hadn't noticed before immense age, but also hope that seemed younger than starlight. Because you were the one who answered when someone called for help. Because when choice mattered most, you chose compassion. Because yesterday, when dying alien grandmother drifted helpless in the void, Marcus Chen decided that she mattered. She held out the egg again. And this time Marcus could feel something emanating from it, not heat, but warmth of a different kind. A sense of vast potential, of dreams waiting to be born. Please, Marcus. Handle it carefully. This is not Jay. Marcus Chen had been working the asteroid mining station for 3 years, and he thought he'd seen everything the void could throw at him. The distant hum of the processing equipment had become as familiar as his own heartbeat, and the endless black outside the viewing ports no longer filled him with the wonder it once had. Today was supposed to be another routine shift checking the mineral extractors on the outer ring that changed when his proximity sensors started screaming. What the hell? Marcus muttered, pulling up the scanner display on his wrist unit. Something was out there, drifting past the station's detection grid. It was small, maybe the size of a personal transport, but the energy signature was all wrong. Too organic. Too alive. The mining station's automated systems had already classified it as debris and marked it for collection by the salvage drones. In 6 hours, whatever was out there would be processed into scrap metal and recycled materials. Marcus paused his equipment inspection and squinted at the readings again. There, a faint power signature, barely detectable, and what looked like life signs. Damn it, he whispered. Company policy was clear. Investigate all potential salvage, but don't take unnecessary risks. The smart thing would be to file a report and let the day shift handle it. But something about those readings bothered him. They were too weak, too inconsistent. Like someone or something was dying, Marcus made his choice. He sealed his maintenance suit and grabbed an emergency thruster pack from the equipment locker. The walk to the nearest airlock took 4 minutes, and every second made him more certain he was making the right call. The outer ring's airlock cycled open, and Marcus, pushed off into the void. Space had a way of making everything feel both infinite and claustrophobic at the same time. Marcus oriented himself using the nav beacons and fired his thrusters in short bursts, closing the distance to the unknown craft. As he got closer, details became visible through his helmet display. It was definitely alien. The hull was smooth, almost grown rather than built, with organic curves that reminded him of deep-sea creatures from Earth's oceans. Pale blue bioluminescent strips pulsed weakly along its surface, and Marcus realized he was looking at a living ship. The readings made sense now. Holy shit, he breathed, then immediately felt guilty for swearing. His grandmother would have smacked him for language like that. The ship was beautiful, but it was also clearly dying. Sections of the hull showed signs of energy weapon damage, and several of the bioluminescent strips had gone dark entirely. Worse, Marcus could see a hull breach near what he guessed was the rear of the craft. Atmosphere was leaking out in a thin, crystallizing stream. He activated his suit's communication array and cycled through every frequency he could think of. Nothing, no response. No automated distress signals, no signs of active communication systems. But the life signs were definitely there. Faint but persistent, Marcus maneuvered around the ship, looking for an access point. The hull breach was too small and too unstable to use safely, but near what he thought might be the front of the craft, he found something that looked like an airlock. The organic seal was partially open, as if the ship had tried to vent atmosphere to prevent explosive decompression. "Here goes nothing," Marcus muttered, and activated his suit's universal interface probe. The device was designed to connect with any known technology, human or alien, and tried to establish basic communication. It took 3 tries, but eventually he felt the probe make contact with something inside the ship. His suit display flickered, then filled with symbols that definitely weren't human. But his translation software, designed for mining operations in alien-claimed space, began working on the patterns. Slowly, words began to appear. "Help, please, grandmother, dying, dying. Marcus felt his heart skip. There was someone alive in there, and they were asking for help. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. He began working on the airlock mechanism, using his suit's cutting tools to carefully widen the organic seal. The process took 20 minutes. And Marcus was constantly aware that his suit's life support was designed for routine maintenance, not extended spacewalks. But finally, the seal opened wide enough for him to squeeze through. The interior of the ship was unlike anything he'd ever seen. The walls curved organically, lit by the same bioluminescent strips that covered the outside. But many of them were dark, and the air felt thin and wrong. Marcus's suit immediately warned him about atmospheric composition: too little oxygen, too much carbon dioxide, traces of xenon gas, following the weak life signs on his scanner. Marcus made his way deeper into the ship. The layout was confusing, clearly designed for non-human physiology, but he managed to find what seemed to be a central chamber, and there, lying on what might have been a rest platform, was the alien Marcus had seen. Aliens before the galaxy was full of them, and some even worked alongside humans in the mining consortiums. But this one was different. And somehow Marcus was certain she was clearly elderly. Her skin was a pale silver blue, covered in what looked like delicate scales that shimmered weakly in the failing light. Her breathing was labored, and dark fluid seeped from a wound in her side. But what struck Marcus most were her eyes. They were large and golden, filled with pain, but also with a keen intelligence. And when she saw him, they filled with something else: hope. "Human?" she whispered, and Marcus's translator rendered her voice as soft and musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Yeah, I'm human," Marcus said, kneeling beside her platform. "I'm Marcus. I saw your ship drifting near our station. Are you hurt?" "Hurt, yes, but more. Ship is dying. I am grandmother to many, must survive." Marcus looked around the chamber, noting the failing life support systems and the worsening damage to the organic hull. The ship wouldn't last much longer, and neither would its passenger. But his mining station had medical facilities, and more importantly, it had life support systems that could adapt to alien physiology. "I can get you out of here," Marcus said. "My station has medical equipment, but I need to move you, and I don't know if your biology can handle the transition." The alien's eyes brightened. "Human ... Marcus. You would do this? Risk yourself for old grandmother you do not know?" Marcus thought about it for exactly half a second. "Yeah, I would. That's what you do for people who need help." The alien made a sound that Marcus's translator couldn't interpret, but he thought it might have been laughter. Or crying, maybe both. This is why the Council speaks of humans as they do," she whispered. "You are not what others expect." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked, but the alien was already trying to sit up. "Later must reach your station. Grandmother has something important to do." Moving the alien was the hardest thing Marcus had ever done. She was larger than a human but weighed less, and her body structure was completely unfamiliar. Worse, her injured side was bleeding that dark fluid more heavily now, and Marcus was terrified that every movement might be killing her, but she was stronger than she looked. With Marcus's help, she managed to reach the airlock, and Marcus rigged a temporary life support bubble using emergency equipment from his suit. It wouldn't last long, but it might be enough. The journey back to the mining station took an eternity. Marcus used every bit of skill he'd learned in 3 years of asteroid operations to keep them both alive and moving. The alien who told him her name was something his translator, rendered as Whisper of Stars, remained conscious the entire time, though Marcus could tell she was fighting to do so. Why? She asked as they approached the station's docking bay. Why risk yourself for stranger? For alien? Marcus thought about his answer as he guided them toward the airlock. Because someone needs help, he said finally. And because my grandmother always told me that kindness is the only thing that makes us worth anything in this universe. Whisper of Stars made that sound again, and this time Marcus was certain it was laughter. Your grandmother, she said weakly, was very wise human. The medical bay at the mining station wasn't designed for alien physiology, but the automated systems were adaptable. Marcus worked with the station's AI to configure life support for Whisper of Stars, and slowly her condition stabilized. The dark fluid stopped flowing from her wound, and her breathing became stronger. Marcus sat beside her medical pod as the healing systems worked, exhausted but relieved. He'd done the right thing. Whatever else happened, he'd saved a life. Marcus, Whisper of Stars said, her voice stronger now. You have done something. Something extraordinary. Not just saving old grandmother, but showing what humans truly are. I just helped someone who needed it, Marcus replied. Anyone would have done the same. No, Whisper of Stars said, and her golden eyes fixed on his. No, they would not. My people? We have watched humans for many cycles. We know what others say about you, that you are violent, territorial, dangerous, but this is who humans really are, yes? When choice matters most? Marcus shrugged. I guess so. I mean, some humans are jerks, just like some of any species probably are. But most people try to do the right thing when it matters. Whisper of Stars was quiet for a long time, and Marcus thought she might have fallen asleep. But then she spoke again, and her voice carried a weight that made Marcus pay attention. Marcus Chun of the human mining station.